Once we have collected data about biodiversity, we need to analyze it. Because this type of data often has a spatial component, Geographic Information Systems, or GIS, is a really useful tool for analyzing biodiversity data. And because biodiversity datasets are growing increasingly larger because of things like remote sensing, drones, and community science, artificial intelligence is also becoming increasingly useful in conservation science. In this video, we will look at what GIS and artificial intelligence are, as well as some applications of each in conservation science. I know that a number of you have explored some of the basics of GIS in your projects of choice, but for everyone, let's spend a bit of time going over what it is and what it's used for. A GIS is a system of computers, hardware, software, and people that can support the capture, management, analysis, and display of spatial data. GIS can be used to answer a variety of different questions that have a spatial element to them. For example, we can ask what is at a particular place, like what type of habitat is at a particular location. We can also ask where something is. We can ask where the optimal location for a particular species is. We can also use GIS to look at the spatial patterns and how they change over time by asking questions like how has the landscape changed since the last forest fire? Or what is the relationship between elevation and a particular type of forest? GIS can also be used to make predictions, like we can use GIS-based analyses to investigate how landscape connectivity might change if a new highway is built. One common thing that GIS is used for in conservation is to map species distributions, which is when we predict the distribution of a species across time and space based on the presence of certain preferred environmental features. There are two main types of species distribution modeling techniques, both of which can be done using GIS. The first are correlative species distribution models, which are also known as climate envelope models or resource selection function models. These models work by looking at where a species is known to occur and by finding those same environmental conditions elsewhere to extrapolate where the species could be found. The other type are mechanistic species distribution models, which are also known as process-based models or biophysical models, which use models independently derived about a species' physiology to develop a model of the environmental conditions under which the species can exist. In these models, one determines the threshold environmental conditions outside of which the species cannot survive, and then those conditions are found and mapped. One really great organization to know about in terms of species distribution modeling is NatureServe, which has developed a free open access online database of species distribution maps for over 95,000 species across Canada and the United States. Because the datasets used in conservation are becoming larger and larger, they're becoming more difficult to analyze with conventional methods. So we are starting to see artificial intelligence being used more and more in conservation. Artificial intelligence, or AI, is an emerging technology that involves training computers to evaluate data, identify trends, and apply these learnings to subsequent problems. As more data becomes available, AI gets smarter and will allow us to tackle even more complex problems. Machine learning, which is another term you might have heard, is a subfield of AI that automates analytical model building and uses methods to form neural networks, statistics, and operations research to find new insights into data without having to explicitly program where to look or what to conclude. We will see a couple of examples of how AI is working to improve conservation in later videos, but it is important to point out that while AI and machine learning have come a long way, there is still a need for humans to help verify the data and help to train models, and many projects have gotten community science involved with this process. For example, AI is being used to streamline the process of identifying species from camera traps, but these models have to be trained by people. And a number of research projects involving huge numbers of camera traps and tens of thousands of images have turned to community scientists to help identify the species in their images and to help train AI models. One of these projects is Snapshot Serengeti, which is a project based in Tanzania. It's one of the longest running citizen science-based projects online regarding camera trap data. Let's look at their platform and how they are using community science to train their models. For example, in this photo, we can see a Thomson's gazelle. And there's just one, and it seems to be moving. There are no young present, so we can hit identify. And there are no other animals in the photo, so we can click the done button. And that's it. We've made a contribution to this project and helped to train their AI model.